Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to yet another Zoom live stream feed. See how long your appetite for these lasts. Inshallah, hopefully I can make it worth your while. I'm Meraj Mohiuddin from Phoenix, Arizona. We're talking a little bit about the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him. And specifically, I'm trying to interweave it into the YouTube series that I'm doing, Revelation, the Experience, the audio experience, so that you can understand how you can understand the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, but also understand the story of Revelation, how the Quran was being revealed, and then each revelation in its chronological order, so you get a sense of the thematic buildup from that. In the last episode, you guys remember we talked about this bullseye right here, and I kind of went on for a while talking about these three concentric circles of what, how, and why, and the fact that most uninspired, boring companies, most uninspired and uninspiring leaders, most kind of mediocre entities, organizations, and people start from the outside in. They know what they do, but they often don't know how they do what they do, and they certainly don't know why they do what they do. And as I said, if you want to be inspired, if you want to be prophetic, like the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, if you want to live the Quran, you have to start from the inside out. You have to start with why. Why Islam? Like, why am I a Muslim? Why serve Allah? And so the litmus test that I always ask people when I kind of have this conversation is, why Islam? And invariably, the answer keeps coming back to questions that people think are answering the question of why, but they're really what answers. So you're asking for something a little bit deeper, and people will say, oh, to get into heaven, or because God said that we were created to worship him. Well, even if and that Allah says that in the Quran, you know, I've created man and jinn so that they worship me. But that's really a what answer. And the Quran actually goes deeper than that, right? That's a manifestation of, if you understand the meaning of Islam, the secret, the gift of Islam, then yes, you do end up worshiping Allah, but that doesn't make people feel inspired to want to worship in the first place. Because if that was the case, people would willfully want to be worshiping all the time, and yet a lot of us, we struggle with the salah, we struggle with some of the things that we were asked to do, which means that we're not completely inspired. We're kind of still doing things because we feel guilty about not doing them. And that's not, you know, if you have a coworker, if you're the CEO of a company and you have employees, you want employees to some level to be doing things because they love doing what they're doing and they're inspired by that. You don't want the type of employees who, if you decide that you're not going to pay them or you can't pay them, you know, for one shift, they're just not going to show up, right? That's a very low level of motivation. So in the same way, when we talk about our deen, what I was implying in the previous episode is that hopefully we can attain a level of faith where we're not just looking at what's in it for us, right? Like, I just want Jannah, like, you know, as opposed to what is the deeper meanings as to why we are Muslim. So I didn't answer the question last week, why Islam? My father pointed that out to me. He said, you know, you asked the question, why Islam, but you didn't give an answer. And I would like to think that I did that purposely because I want people to think about this. I don't think it's something you can just give away. If you give an answer away quickly, A, it's not your answer. You didn't discover it for yourself, so it's not nearly as possible. And B, you kind of have to do some heavy thinking. You really have to reflect on that to find those answers. What I want to do today is kind of dance around this issue of why, so that you guys can start unpacking this for yourselves. And this idea of what is the gift of Islam? Why Islam? This is something that a lot of people who come to Islam from other faiths, right, converts or reverts as people sometimes like to call them, they have this incredible experience that they come to Islam because they have put in an incredible amount of thinking or feeling and heart work to look at, okay, I have this option here and I have this option here. Why should I choose this over this, right? And so they actually have to do some comparative shopping. They actually have to, like, you know, it's like when you buy a TV. Should I get the 56-inch TV or should I get the 40-inch, but it also has all these other features on it? And you have to actually look at the pros and cons of each one and weigh it out. And people who are coming to faith, coming to Islam, they generally tend to do a little bit of that, if not a lot of it. Well, I could do this, but I don't have to, because they don't have to be a Muslim. They really have to prove to themselves that they want this for themselves before they take on that choice of accepting Islam. Whereas people who are born Muslim, as myself, we don't necessarily struggle with that issue because it was just been given to us in our hands. We didn't fight for that. And because we didn't fight for that, often our conviction is not at the same level of people who really fought to take Islam and be like, I want this. I am choosing this for myself, okay? And like the easiest example of that is, how many of you are parents? You work so hard, let's just say to buy something for the house, right? Since we were mentioning TVs, let's just go with that analogy. So I get the 56-inch or the 60-inch TV, or which one should I get? And you work extra hard, you save up money, and then you buy the TV and you put it in the house, and every time you sit down and click on the TV, you're enjoying it, and you put a lot of effort into figuring out this was the right TV, and you saved up. So a lot of effort was put into it, a lot of thinking, a lot of research and reflecting, and a decision was made. Your kids, on the other hand, every day they show up, Dad, what's on TV? The TV is not working. I wish we had a better one. They don't appreciate it because they never chose that TV. They never put the blood and the sweat and the tears to get that TV. And it's not really their fault. That's just the nature of things. When things are given to people, they don't appreciate it the way it is when you actually choose it. And so the theme today is, why choose Islam? Like, first of all, for those of you who have not actively chosen Islam yet, and I would say that's most people, believe it or not. We've all made the Shahada, alhamdulillah, but like, have we really chosen Islam? As opposed to it was given to us, it sounded good, why would we not do Islam? Astaghfirullah, the other ones I don't even know that much about, but it doesn't seem like they'll be, worth it. Islam makes sense, I know the community, and we have all these kind of secondary reasons why we're Muslim, but how many of us have actually looked at different alternatives and be like, this is the best that I can do for myself? And so what I am suggesting to all of you is to consider that this Ramadan, if you haven't already, you want to make that you want to recommit to Allah. You want to recommit to your deen. And so maybe an interesting exercise might be to start, I don't want to say out of Islam, but start on the edge of it and be like, do I really want to jump into this pool? Am I really wholeheartedly jumping into this? Or am I just going to stick a foot in and like wade my toe for the next 12 months until the next Ramadan? Or am I going to jump in this Ramadan? The way someone who chooses Islam actively jumps in. Now, one of the things that you have to understand is that all of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, were converts. They actively chose to jump into the pool of Islam. They actively looked around. They saw what else the Quraysh had to offer, what else was offered in Yathrib, with the Ansar, the other companions who were from outside of other parts of Arabia or beyond. Salman al-Farisi, classic example, he chose and he worked and he sweated hard. And he looked at the Prophet, peace upon him, he assessed the situation, he asked him questions, and then he made a decision. And then he was completely in. And so I'm suggesting to all of us today is that we start thinking about looking at Islam analytically. What is the gift? What am I getting out of this? What are the feature sets on this thing? Not just what are the reviews, because other people, your parents, your siblings, they'll tell you, oh, a 5-star review, product review, you should buy this product, right? You got to look at the actual features of Islam in and of itself. So when you look at Islam, the question is, what is the gift of Islam? Like if you could put Islam like as a little advertisement, right, in the newspaper like this, what would you write that would attract people to Islam, that would convince them that this is something you should look into? And I don't know that I could have answered that question even 2 years ago, maybe not even a year ago completely. Why Islam? If you had to write an advertisement for Islam. Because if you just write to worship Allah, that's not going to attract anybody. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything to anybody. Well, I can worship God with another religion. Why Islam? Why is Islam different? That Islam gives me something that other religions don't give me, or better, or more authentic, or so forth, or more powerful, or more transformative. And that's something that I really want you all to kind of sit with and think about. Why Islam? What do you think Islam is offering you that you can't get out of any other deen? Because if you haven't thought about that, you're not really in it. And if you also haven't thought about it, it's possible maybe there's something else. I don't want to suggest there is, but you don't know because you haven't done the research. I haven't done the research. And so you're watching this TV the rest of your life, not knowing if there was a better TV out there. So you're not really enjoying that TV because you didn't actively choose it. So then the question is, why Islam? What is the gift of Islam? And this is something that has been very difficult for me to figure out and even more so to articulate to other people, but I'll kind of give you an idea of what I think the gift of Islam is. And perhaps you have your own notions of it, and it's good to not just quote a verse, because then that's easy. No one's going to argue against that, but it doesn't really show that you've really thought about it necessarily. For me, the discovery of why Islam goes back to the story of the prophets, because the prophets are the most relatable part of the Quran for me personally. They're human beings who went through what I went through. They walked through the marketplace. They had to eat and drink just like I have to. They had to deny their own human instincts the way I have to. They have to control themselves the way I have to, and so forth. So the stories of the Quran to me are very powerful, of the prophets. In the very first story in the Quran, in its compiled order, it happens to be the story of a prophet. And I'm wondering if you can right now think about who is that prophet, who is the first prophet that is mentioned in the Quran in its compiled order. Because Surat Al-Fatiha, there's no prophet mentioned in Al-Fatiha. The next surah is Surat Al-Baqara. Now, it's not the next surah that was revealed, but it's the next surah in the compiled order. Surat Al-Baqara, we believe, is the first Madani surah. So it was revealed about 13 years into the Quranic download, as I like to call it. Well, Surat Al-Baqara, the very first prophet mentioned is Adam al-Islam. So the first prophet who Allah created is also the first prophet mentioned in the Quran as compiled order. And in Surat Al-Baqarah, in the 30s, we get to the story of Adam, peace be upon him. And Allah says that he is making a khalifa on earth. He already knows this, right? Even before he's telling the angels, look, I'm making a human being. And I'm going to paraphrase here just for the sake of speed. I'm not going to read from it directly. I am making an angel. I am making a khalifa on earth. And Allah creates Adam al-Islam. And then what happens? We know that the angels ask, why would you create humans who can sow corruption and spill a lot of blood? We are angels. We praise you all the time. Why not put us on earth? Basically is a question. Why would you put these horrible people who have such capacity for evil when we're amazing? And Allah says to the angels, literally, I know what I'm doing. I know what you don't know. And so then Allah creates Adam, and we kind of get into the story and so forth, and we don't have the time to get into all these details. But ultimately what we know is that Adam al-Islam and Eve are on earth. And this is after they ate from the tree. They made a mistake. In the Quran it says they made a slip. They kind of momentarily forgot. Allah had told them not to do that. They made a choice, and the choice, it was a wrong choice. And so then on earth, and Allah turns to them. Now, is Allah upset with them? Is he angry with them? What do we see in the Quran? The Quran, Allah is loving. He turns to them, right? Lovingly, because they're feeling very, distressed. They're alone in the world. And Allah turns to Adam and Eve. And the first thing that he teaches them is, how many of you know the story in Surat Al-Baqarah, right? The first lesson, the very first lesson in Islam, in the story of mankind, is how to turn back to Allah, right? It's how to go like this and be wait, I need to come back to you. So Allah is teaching us the very first lesson, probably one of the most important lessons as human beings, is that our human nature is that we will make mistakes. But Allah is telling us the very first thing that you need to learn is how to turn back. Because without that, everything else is missing. There's nothing else to live for if we can't turn back to Allah. So Allah teaches how to make tawbah to Adam. Now, after Adam makes tawbah, Allah lovingly, he kind of, it's like a father just pulling a son back who was wayward, and now just giving him a hug and be look, you're here with me now. And I like to use the analogy of a father and a son, because I have a little child, boys, and so it's near to me. If my son does something, if he doesn't listen to me, what do? I need to make sure he learns the lesson, so he knows that there's a repercussion to this. But as soon as I see that he has remorse, the first thing, especially as a little child, the first thing I'll do is I'll scoop him up and give him a hug, and let him know that yes, he was feeling bad in this moment, but that was just so that he understands the lesson. Otherwise, there's no lesson to be learned if there's no repercussion of the choice. But then I'll scoop him up and look, you never have to worry about being scared of me. I am always here with you. And you just always stay connected with me. Stay with me. I'm going to make sure that you grow up, inshallah, to the best of my capacity, safe and sound. But now here comes a lesson, right? Whenever we have to guide our children, the first step is we gotta let them feel a little bit of repercussion of their choice. The second thing we do is we regather their attention, we bring them in, we make them feel loved, and we ensure that they have trust in us as parents. We're not like abandoning them, we're not leaving them out to dry, right? So we've established that they've learned the lesson, one, they feel loved again, they understand that they can always come back to mom and dad, that there's nothing they can ever hide from us. And then number three is I now need to give them a pearl of wisdom so that this thing doesn't happen in the future, right? So now's the time to do some teaching. And whatever I'm going to tell them is probably going to be really, really fundamental to their success in life. So now Allah, we see in the story of Adam al-Islam, he made a mistake. He is now on earth. There's a repercussion. He's feeling bad about this. Allah turns to Adam al-Islam in loving, right? Allah is the Tawwab Rahim, right? He's turning in like loving rahmah. And Adam, he teaches Adam's words of tawbah, meaning he teaches Adam how to embrace the way Allah is embracing. He's teaching Adam how to make that embrace also. Now that there's an embrace, it's time to impart a lesson. And the lesson that Allah gives, the very first lesson, right? Tawbah was like the first kind of like tip, right? But now the first like life lesson, the wisdom to be imparted upon Adam al-Islam is probably, to me, one of the most profound verses in the entire Quran. Allah says, again, I'm paraphrasing here, he says, guidance is going to come down from me to you, right? And to you meaning to Adam and then to all of mankind after that, right? Whoever follows my guidance, what did he say? La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. There will be no fear upon them, nor will they grieve. So to me, this is one of the central, if you're going to make that advertisement of what is the gift of Islam? Why choose Islam? You know, there's a sale, come check it out. Here's the advertisement. Why choose Islam, right? I would say probably in that sentence or paragraph should be the phrase, whoever follows this guidance, there will be no fear upon them, nor will they grieve. Not just on the day of judgment or in the hereafter, but in this life also. La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. They will not have any fears, and they will not have any griefs. Now I guarantee you, in this day and age, in this time right now, everyone is locked up in their homes. There is an incredible amount of fear, and there's an incredible amount of grief right now, right? What are fears about? Fears that are generally about things that haven't happened yet. We're scared that the stock market might crash. We're scared that I'll never see my parents again. I'm scared I'll get sick. I'm scared my children will do this. I'm scared about this. I'm scared about that. We're just listing things that have happened, that have not yet happened, but they're in the future. That's why we're scared about them. We don't get scared about things that happened already, because they already happened. We fear about the future. Griefs. What are things that we regret or we grieve about? Oh, I wish I had said goodbye to so-and-so. I wish I had, prepared more for the situation. I wish I had spent more time with my relatives before I got locked in. I wish. So our griefs are things about what happened in the past. And this moment right now, being locked up, right? The world is kind of shut down right now. It's creating a situation where people are trapped inside their homes and they cannot distract themselves from the reality of their lives. Like you have to confront the reality of your life right now. You're at home, you have to listen to your thoughts. I mean, you might be able to YouTube it away or Netflix it away, but even then people are probably getting tired of Netflix at some point and they've watched every show and now they're like, okay, now what do I do? I'm so bored. I mean, you can see it. People are so terrified to have to stay in their house. It's very difficult for people to stay in their homes. And I'm curious to wonder, is it really that hard to stay in your house if you are a true believer? Is it really that hard? Because what's happening when you stay in your home, you're being locked up in yourself, you're being locked up in your brain, and now you have to deal with all the thoughts. What if, oh, I should have done this and I should have done that, and why did I do this and why did I do that? So your brain is starting to be filled with fears and griefs. And that's like a very unpleasant way to live life. And I am convinced that most people are going through life constantly the wheel is running, that hamster wheel in their head, constantly spinning. I gotta make more money. I have to make sure that I'm providing for my family. I need to work on my resume in case, something happens here. I don't know if this relationship is going well. What if we split up? What will happen with my inheritance? All this blah, blah, da, 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 da. Most people live in this world. It's just the reality of it, right? Most human beings, Muslim and non-Muslim, we live in this world of worrying about the future. What happens if I never get married? What happens if this doesn't happen? What happens if she said this? And what happens if they found out that I said this, right? The griefs. I shouldn't have done that. I made this huge mistake. Why did I choose this profession? This is horrible. Or, my partner, we're not getting along. Why did I ever marry this person? Or whatever these things are. Why wasn't I a better father? How come, I should have stayed home as a mom. Why didn't I stay home? Or I should have not stayed home. I should have stayed at work. All these thoughts, racing. And for most people, the only way out of their thoughts is to do what? To grab the remote control and just turn something on so that you don't have to watch the movie, right? The reruns in your head. You can watch the reruns on TV. And that's why entertainment is so popular, because it takes you away from the reality that you have a lot of fears and a lot of griefs. Well, what happens when there's no entertainment? Or what happens when you get locked in? Now you're stuck. And it gets really uncomfortable to be alone at home with just your family, perhaps. Imagine if there's no internet. Imagine if the internet died. That would be a bigger problem than the virus itself. If there was no internet, right? There was no entertainment. Then people would really be on the streets, because the capacity to stay at home without being distracted is so difficult. Why is it so difficult? Why can't we just clear our heads and just zen out, meditate this away from us? Well, it's hard. And most traditions, to some extent, have some element of this idea of don't live in the future and don't live in the past, live in the present. That's the same idea as saying no fears and no griefs. Don't live in the future about things that will never happen to you. Don't live in the past about things you can't change. Just live here in the moment, right? There are a lot of philosophies that teach this. So like an advertisement, you can say Islam, no fear, no grief. But you can say here, even if you look at, I was looking at Hinduism, even if you look at Hinduism, this is like in their texts also. If you look at, this in the Gospels, you'll see Jesus, according to their text, saying, you don't fear, I am with you, all this kind of stuff. You see it in a lot of different traditions, definitely in Buddhism too. How to live powerfully in the present. So it's not a unique claim. So then why choose Islam? Why choose this religion? Why not these others, which might be saying something similar? Allah is saying very clearly, whoever follows my guidance will have nothing to fear nor will be grieved. And he's giving a prescription in this book of the Quran, which is unadulterated compared to all the other messages, that if you really get into this message, you will find the answer of how to live powerfully in the present, which is what everyone in the world is chasing. Everybody is chasing this. How to live with peace in the present. How to just be able to sit quietly without entertainment, without internet, and be happy, feel content, and feel satisfied. That's the definition of contentment. It's like you have to be able to close your eyes alone and just be happy with where you are, without your mind immediately thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to get back to Larry on that email, and then this project is due, and this and that, and especially in this fast-paced world. My belief is that the gift of Islam is that if you want to put an advertisement about why Islam, because it allows you to live powerfully in this life, regardless of what is going to be thrown at you. You can move through life with courage and beauty and confidence and powerfully without being rocked like a boat. Like you can just cut through the waters, no matter how choppy the waters are, you just stay calm and move through the waters. And this, we see this a lot in the Quran, right? This idea of nafsul mutma'inna, this soul at rest, this soul at peace, not being rocked by the waves and so forth. And so it is my belief, one of the greatest gifts of Islam that we don't take for granted. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is Muslims are frantic. Right? We get so upset as soon as something happens. Oh, some horrible strike happen. Even with the bad stuff that's happening, right? If you look at what's happening in Syria, what's happening in Kashmir, what's happened in Southeast Asia, all these places, what's happening all over the world, not just necessarily Muslims, right? It pains us. But at the same time, we can't confuse that pain with anxiety. Because if we're anxious, that means that we're not living in a place of peace and presence, right? We can be concerned about people, but we don't need to get anxious about them, because if we truly followed Islam, we understand that Allah is watching this stuff. And so long as we are doing what we can do to help our brothers and sisters, there's nothing else that we can do. And so we have to be content with where we're at. But unfortunately, the Muslim Ummah is just like, it's just rocking on the waves. Every single little insult. Oh, they made a cartoon about the Prophet. Now the tidal waves start rolling again, right? What? They insulted so-and-so? Tidal waves start. We are very quick to fly into a rage. This is Jahiliyyah. This is what the Prophet peace upon him came to address. And so if we ourselves are not engendering the gift of Islam, why would other people want to come to Islam? If we're like every 2 seconds hot-headed and flying off and, astaghfirullah, and getting all mad over every little thing, how is that attractive to people who are window shopping at different religions? Yeah, it says no fear, no grief, but look at these guys. They're just like upset, they're red-faced, they're angry, they're yelling. They don't look very calm or collected to me, right? So, and again, I'm not saying that you don't rise up against an oppressor or whatever. I'm kind of keeping in context of us right now. We have to kind of be very peaceful. We don't get rocked. If a big wave comes, we just kind of gently go over these big waves. We don't kind of, constantly get rocked back and forth. That, to me, is one of the greatest gifts of Islam. To achieve that soul at peace, nafsa mutma'inna, right? Allah is pleased with us. We're pleased with Allah. Whatever happens, alhamdulillah. A real alhamdulillah. We know that we're supposed to say alhamdulillah whenever anything happens. But how many of us, it's like, alhamdulillah, that it burns, right? It can't burn. That's not the alhamdulillah. The real alhamdulillah is like, alhamdulillah, there's a wisdom in whatever is happening. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. I don't need to know. I'm obedient to Allah, and whatever Allah wills, as long as His will is fulfilled, I am happy with that. That's what alhamdulillah means, right? And so to me, this is a huge gift of Islam. In the story of Adam, that Allah is telling Adam, I am going to send down guidance to you, a download to you. So Adam al-Islam got some download. Allah sent a download down to Nuh al-Islam. He sent it down to Ibrahim al-Islam, right? To Ismail, Ishaq. Every prophet is getting this guidance and they're following it. And that's why you see these prophets, their life, they're like this, tranquil. Look at Yaqub al-Islam, the most horrible thing. His favorite son, for all he knows, is kidnapped, thrown away, dead, murdered, whatever. Yaqub al-Islam is like this. He's upset, he's sad, he has a level of human grief, but he's not like, Allah, why did you do it? Why did I let these boys take my child away? I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have done that, right? And we play these things in our head. How many of us do this? Why did I do that? If only I could go back in time. I'm so stupid. When will I get my act together, right? None of that. Revising history, worrying about history. And in the future, he's saying, it's just sweet patience. I have to be patient. I have to push through smoothly. And this is by the command of Allah. And so you see this in the story of Yaqub al-Islam. You see it even more so in the story of his son, Yusuf al-Islam. If you look at Yusuf al-Islam's story, up and down, right? He has a dream and he's really high up and he tells his father, but then he gets thrown into a well. So his life is really down. But then some people pick him up and get him and he goes to the house of Al-Aziz. So he's pretty good again. But then he gets, he gets accused of something slanderous, and he gets thrown in jail, back down again. Then he tells people about the dreams, and they said, remind me to tell the person, but they don't remind him. So he's like stuck down in jail again. Then finally comes back up again, right? So on any material level, you would look at Yusuf al-Islam's reality and be like, oh, it was like, what an up and down life. Like, talk about up and down and up and down and up and down. This guy, his emotions must have been like a whirlwind, right? If anyone else went on that up and down ride, we would just be like, oh my God, we'd be happy one day, sad the next day, happy the next day. We'd be a mess. When you look at Yusuf al-Islam, he's completely at peace. Regardless of the situation, he's owning the gift of Islam, which means that no matter what life throws at you, you live in such tranquility. Of course, there's human emotion. You're sad, you miss people, but you're not scared in a cosmic sense. You're not scared in terms of your life, because you know that your life is in Allah's hands. So I'm probably going to end it right there, because I don't want to give away too much. I always feel like it's not good to give away too much, because it's important to think about the stuff, reflect on it, and so forth. So what I want to do here is 4:30. It's 4:31. I'm supposed to be done at 4:30. What I want to do is give out some homework. So the homework today is some reflection, right? And this is part of Ramadan, like ibadah, right? To reflect on your life, right? It doesn't always have to be something you have to say. You don't always have to be reading Quran, or you can be reflecting on your life so that you can start thinking about changes that you might want to make. So the reflections that I want people to focus on today is, are you truly at peace? Like truly at peace? Or are you worried about your children? Do you worry about them when you go to sleep at night? Do you worry about your relationships? Are you scared of money right now? Are you stressed out about losing your job? Are you stressed out about what might happen in the future? When will lockdowns be lifted and so forth? Are you stressed out about what will happen to you? Are you upset? Do you hold grudges? Are you replaying stuff in your mind constantly? I should have said this to that person. How did I let them get away with this? Are you burning because people have wronged you? Do you have some deep down jealousies or deep down just grudges, right? This is all stuff in the past. And the goal, I would hope, for Ramadan, one of the goals is to come out of Ramadan, like not worrying about the past and the future, but being very present. And then, you have 11 months to try to deflect that until the next Ramadan, where you go to the car wash again and that can get completely present again. But this to me is the gift of not only Islam, the gift of Ramadan. If we look at the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, the last 10 nights, he always did i'tikaf, where he was in the masjid, because it's like he needs to shut out all the noise, no TVs, no family, nothing. I just need to be with me and really write this, get completely present to my present. You get present to Allah, and when you do that, then you become like Yusuf al-Islam. You are bulletproof. You will sail through life regardless of what life is throwing at you, up or down, jail sentence or not. You will cruise that life connected to Allah, and everyone else on the outside will be like, how did you do it? How were you so stable in that sea? When the sea was so choppy, how did you maintain stability so you didn't get seasick while everyone else was trying to scramble aboard your ship? And that's what we need to be as the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him. So I'll end it there. That's the homework. Really reflect on this, guys. Don't just, it's easy to just watch other lectures and it's like listen to more YouTube and then just read Quran, but to start doing some heart work, thinking about your own life, your own challenges, that's where the real transformation starts to happen. So I encourage you guys to do that. That's something that I'm trying to work on today also. And hopefully in the next episode, when we meet again, we can talk a little bit more about what we've all discovered. So I will hand it back over to Ahmed. Are you there? Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Are we okay on time?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair for everything. And then we'll figure out when the next episode will be and get that promoted to everyone, inshallah.
Sounds good. It'll either be next weekend. I think I have to work, so it might be tough. If not, then it'll be the following weekend, but we'll let everyone know as soon as we can sort that out, inshallah.